Chapter 3 Karma Yoga, the Yoga of Action. Sans karma survives none. Why to shirk karma then? In the preceding chapter, Lord Krishna preached Buddhi Yoga to Arjuna, by which one attains supreme state or salvation. Buddhi Yoga is further divided into two branches. First is Sankhya Yoga and second is Karma Yoga. In Sankhya Yoga, wisdom attains prominence, whereas karma predominates in Karma Yoga. Sankhya Yoga is also called Sannyas Yoga, that is, yoga through wisdom. It emphasizes reason, observance of wisdom and renunciation, whereas the path of Karma Yoga is the triune of detachment, meditation and action. In the previous chapter, Arjuna had got puzzled as Lord Krishna was emphasizing importance of Sankhya Yoga by preaching renunciation, meditation of soul, and sometimes insisting on steadfastness in karma, that's Buddhi Yoga. In this chapter of Karma Yoga, both the branches are discussed in detail, and Lord Krishna finally declares one that is the best. Arjuna says, Hey Janardhan, if wisdom is nobler than karma, then, O Lord, why are you impelling me to the fierce fight? I am confused with your uncertain speech. Please tell me decisively, which way shall I find the better end? Pandit too wanted to know the same. Shri Prabhuji told Pandit that teachings of Lord Krishna in the following chapters would dispel his doubts. Lord Krishna in this context says, Hey sinless, two kinds of loyalty, the Sankhya Yoga and Karma Yoga were told me earlier for the wise in this world. The path of wisdom for the men of contemplation and the path of work for the men of action. That is, Sankhya Yogis cling to wisdom of soul and Karma Yogis adhere to Karma Yoga. But karma is not to be shunned in any kind of the loyalties. Karma has to be performed, for none shall attain perfection merely by giving up work. In fact, none can remain without doing any karma, not even for a moment, for thought too is an act in fancy. Thus, the entire human race is bound to work under dominance of the nature-born qualities. Simpletons who apparently restrain the organs of action, but mind ponders upon objects of the senses, they are known as inept and hypocrites. But he who restrains the senses by mind and follows Karma Yoga by giving up moral powers to worthy work, dispassionately, without seeking gain, he is the best. Therefore, one must keep doing one's natural karmas in accordance with the scriptures. To do karma is higher than not doing it, for the body cannot be sustained without work. The worldly works and toil with attachment lead a person to bondage in this material world, but karmas performed in holiness as yajna do not bind a person. Therefore, perform your prescribed duty diligently, free from attachment for the sake of sacrifice, that is yajna. The karma thus performed has been called the yajna by Lord Krishna. In the commencement of the creation, the Creator said, Work, sacrifice, that is, serve, increase and multiply by service. You shall prosper thus. This may yield the enjoyment you seek. Note, yajna, any deed carried out for good of all, keeping God in mind, without any personal motive or desire, is yajna. Yajna is usually translated as sacrifice, which means to take trouble for doing good deeds. It does not mean slaying of animals or any kind of violence with oneself or others. Worship the gods, that is, uphold their sanctity by all your actions. The gods will keep you healthy and happy. The mutual care taken by one another thus shall prosper all. Thereby perform yajna, lay some oblation from whatever is bestowed by the gods. They shall be gracious to you. But he who offers no gift of his toil is undoubtedly a thief. Those who eat what is left from the offering or oblation are absolved of all sins. But those who cook and eat all by themselves, verily they eat sin. All beings survive on food. Food comes of rain. Rain comes of the pious oblation, the yajna, and yajna is rooted in the prescribed action. Know the origin of the prescribed action in the Vedas, and the Vedas emanated from Brahma, the one indestructible and the infinite sovereign Lord. This way, the all-pervading Supreme Soul is always inherently present in yajna. Arjun, one who fails to follow this wheel of creation set to rotate thus, he leads a sinful life. One who shirks his duties and lives only for the sake of sensual delights, such person lives in vain. Note, 5 gods, the earth, fire, water, air, and sky are known as the gods because these are life-giving and everything is produced due to these alone. The earth element is the basis of life and dwells within as well. Because of water element there is taste. Due to fire or radiance there is sight. Air is the basis of touch, and hearing sound is due to the sky element. These 5 life-sustaining gods are the most revered in the Vedic way of life. Hence, mankind is instructed never to pollute them in any way. If these are polluted, one can never think of good health and happiness. Pandit said, Guruvar, whatever I heard in the teachings of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, it clears the concept of Karma Yoga. I am left with no doubt about it. Now, please elaborate Sankhya Yoga or Sannyasa Yoga. Shri Prabhuji said, according to the Gita, the person who takes delight in the soul, realizes and traverses within it, he remains tranquil and complacent in the soul alone. Then he has no other action to involve into. Such is the loyalty to the Sankhya Yoga or Sannyasa Yoga or Sannyasa Yoga. Such a great person in this world has nothing to gain by action or by abstaining from the action. He is left with absolutely no trace of any relation of personal motive with anyone or anything of the world. Thus, a Sankhya Yogi lives detached while doing all karmas. That means remains uninvolved in good material karmas and spiritual karmas, keeping God in mind always, thus unites with the Supreme Soul by way of wisdom. After explaining Sankhya Yoga in distinct terms thus, what follows in the chapter of Karma Yoga is this. God says, ancient saints like King Janak attained perfection through the path of righteous action alone, that is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is work for maintenance of the world order, Lok Sangraha. You too work for the same. And whatever works great men do, others follow them. So their deeds must be exemplary. Lord speaks about himself. In all the three worlds I have neither any work to perform, nor anything is left to attain, yet I remain earnest in karmas. At any time, if I am not careful about karmas, it would cause a great loss, for people emulate only me in every way. If I ever cease to act, then all the people would sink to sloth. They would degrade and destroy themselves, and I would be known as the cause of breaking the world order as well as destroyer of the people. God says, as the ignorant people work by being attached to their works and in the hope of reward, the wise person too performs the same works, but without attachment, for the sake of bringing bliss and deliverance to the world. The wise person who is firmly fixed in the form of God, he must be very careful of not sowing the seeds of despair in intelligence of simple, busy people, which may cause irreverence or loss of faith in them towards their karmas. Rather, by doing all prescribed duties himself in accordance with the scriptures, the wise man should inspire others to do the same. The ignorant, whose mind is deluded by pride, he believes himself as the doer. I am the doer. In fact, all works are universally brought about by the three nature-born qualities. In other words, all karmas by all means are performed by the very qualities endowed to a person by nature. The knower of this truth distinguishes how the qualities are operating among qualities. Knowing thus, he stays aloof and lives without any attachment to them. The untaught people who are deluded by the qualities or modes of nature remain attached to their works. But the wise who completely comprehends the reality should not deviate the dim-witted people who are unable to comprehend. After imparting teachings of Karma Yoga, Lord Krishna commands, "Dedicate all your karmas unto me, the omniscient Lord, centering mind upon me and freeing yourself from desire and feverish despair. Get up, Arjun, fight." Whosoever without finding faults reverently follows my Karma Yoga ever, he liberates from bonds of all works. But those who disregard this path are bereft of wisdom. They remain deluded and ruin themselves. All beings, in fact, even the wise men, act according to the tendencies of their own nature, acquired from the three modes of nature. Repression can hardly accomplish anything. Attachment and aversion for sense objects remain embedded in the senses. Senses stimulate like and dislike. These are the two principal enemies of man, which blind and beguile even the wise persons. One must not surrender oneself to their dominion, for both these, attachment and aversion, obstruct the way of one's redemption. Doing of one's duty, swadharma, though devoid of merit, is better than doing others' work, though that seems good and perfectly performed. Even death in doing one's own duty brings blessedness, whereas doing others' work, paradharma, one remains fraught with fear and danger. Pandit said, "My lord, I understood the difference between detached and avaricious, but even detached person falls for the world at times. Please tell the reason behind it." Shri Prabhuji said, "Dear Pandit, in the same context Arjun asks, what impels a person to commit sin involuntarily? as if by force? Answer to this question is a great treasure of wisdom indeed. Listen to the words of Lord carefully. Desire veils the wisdom. God says, it is owing to calm, the desire begotten of passion. It is grossly insatiable and wicked indeed. Desire and anger are the strongest as well as the most distracting factors on the way to righteousness. As fire is surrounded by smoke, mirror is marred by dust, and an unborn baby is covered by ammunition, wisdom is thus veiled by desire, which remains rooted in the senses, mind, and intelligence. The insatiable fire, that is desire, is the constant foe of the wise. It blocks the beams of wisdom and deludes the embodied soul. Desire and anger are the vicious enemies of man. These prevail over the senses, which drag the mind and intelligence as well, and force one to act contrariwise. Thus, even the wise people also get deluded at times and fall. Hence, Arjun, first overcome your senses and then destroy the desire, the evil, the enchanting soft sinfulness that deludes and deprives one of truth, wisdom, and self-realization. The senses are said to be superior to body. Greater than senses is the mind. Greater than mind stands intelligence, and what rests higher still is he, the soul. Therefore, first restrain your senses, then mind comes under control. Thereafter overcome intelligence and attain tranquility by remembering God. Desire and anger stay away from the one who dwells in constant union with God. One must know that God is beyond intelligence. He who becomes Buddhi Yogi, he alone knows the truth, and he alone is a great yogi indeed. Thus, Arjun, know him, the soul, who is beyond the intelligence, subduing the senses and mind by intelligence. Vanquish this enemy in the form of desire, which is hard to conquer indeed. After hearing the teachings of Lord Krishna from Prabhuji, Pandit was glad to know the two ways, Buddhi Yoga and Sannyas Yoga, and the unity between the two that is shown through wisdom. Pandit said, I understood the precept completely. In my opinion, this is the highest education to make human life worthwhile. But the obstruction here is that fruit is attached to every action as smoke with fire. If mind remains tangled in the fruit, then detachment, wisdom, and meditation may disintegrate. Therefore, I find it quite hard indeed to be a Buddhi Yogi. Please tell me the way to restrain the senses and defeat the desire. Shri Prabhuji said, Yoga is a vast learning indeed. It addresses every obstacle. We shall study the same subject in the next chapter, the Yoga of wisdom, karma and renunciation. Om Tat Sat. Thus ends Upanishad of the celestial song, the knowledge of God realization, the scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjuna, the third chapter named Karma Yoga, the Yoga of action.